Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct this new day from Black Facts headquarters. Our poem for the day is, proverb for the day. A roaring lion kills no game. A roaring lion kills no game. And that is a proverb from Uganda. A roaring lion kills no game. Poem for the day is Sound of a Heart Train. Sound of a Heart Train. And let's see. Yep, don't glasses. And this one is dedicated to John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman. Twice together, two rails of ache hurdle this group hard. Railings, ailings, and of sound moaning, honing stone pads, stone lone, bleeding and balladeering, a dignity of stresses, tracks, crisscrossing a scale of time and tones, making fancy dance, the ear poly-layered, the movement, the lyric, lumbersome, the love. Beneath rails, between rails, daring drum heart, arcs of crescendo, of thumps and thunder, bumps and hums, a cardiacting rhythm section, drum bass for rails of sound, for ails of sound, soaring, exploring, horned voice, brass flesh and rail, cocaine sometimes and tail, powdered blood blown, thickened to stone, to tracks of steel rhyme, shuttling invisible cargo, indivisible cargo, the weight, the worry, the freight, the fret, the golden stool of stereo tucked in, under rails of ache, hurtling this group heart, horned voice, brass, flesh, and rail, cocaine, sometimes, and tail. Sound of a Heart Train for John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman from The Eye in the Ceiling, selected poems of none other than Mr. Eugene Redman. Eugene Redman. So moving on to our story for the day. We're coming around the bend here, and today we find Crosby in England. Jolly old England. A British worker and his wife invited McCree and me to their home for dinner. We were served a dinner which consisted of kidney stew, commonly referred to in England as a pie, if my memory hasn't betrayed me. I was an avid eater of pie at home, so I relished the offer. Much to Earl McCree's and my surprise, we were served a kidney stew. Maybe it was covered with a dough crust. We'd never eaten such before. However, we were polite and accepted the dish. McCree managed to eat it without calamity. Was not so fortunate and found myself in a worse situation, one I had never been in before. I tried to eat the stew, but finally I had to push it away and resort to eating the chips and later the real pastry offering. I hoped my refusing the meat pie, as we may have called it back home, did not damage our reception. When we arrived in England, we'd been advised to avoid such situations. They told us not to go there, but I hadn't listened to that particular restriction. When we arrived in England, And here we were begging our host and hostess pardon after I had embarrassed us. Our blackness made us very sensitive. My service in England consisted of 2 duty assignments. First, I was, as already stated, selected to be the administrative assistant to the Judge Advocate General for all Scarwolf soldiers in Europe. Not just England, the whole area, the geopolitical area of Europe. The assignment wasn't difficult. Indeed, it was a snap, because the judge advocate's position required him to not only be in England, but also in France and Germany. He was seldom in his office at the 928th Engineer Aviation Group headquarters. As it happened, his administrative assistant's service time ended and he shipped out back to the States. My typing test score being 25 words per minute, not good, but tolerable. And my stating at an Army induction interview I had majored in pre-law singled me out for this assignment. But it also turned out to be a Pyrrhic victory, for the judge advocate turned out to be a real bastard. I was assigned as the Judge Advocate General's administrative assistant's replacement while the Judge Advocate was away in Europe. When he returned, he was thunderstruck upon finding me sitting in his office. The curtness of his manner of introducing himself to me let me immediately discern his disdain. My snap position quickly turned into a living hell, for the judge made it evident he couldn't and wouldn't tolerate having me around. I could do nothing right. Any typing or phone message errors he took as a personal affront. And after a week or two, I learned he had appealed to the headquarters company commander, Captain John Sullivan, to have me replaced. The Judge Advocate General, who held the rank of Bird Colonel, objected to the fact that his previous white administrative assistant was replaced with a black soldier, and obviously argued for a white soldier to immediately replace me. Remember, this was 1953. President Harry S. Truman integrated the U.S. military by Executive Order 9981 in July 26, 48. 1948, that is. This executive order led to the abolishment of racial discrimination in the armed forces, then and eventually in all military services in 1954. It was now 1953, not long enough ago, it seemed, just 5 or 6 years to have removed the blight of racism from the Judge Advocate General's mindless mindset. The headquarters company commander selected me from his office staff. The headquarters company commander selected from his office staff a white soldier to replace me. I then became the only African American in his supply section. I learned later the company commander had several negative reports on the soldier he chose and was waiting for an opportunity to get rid of him. As long as my replacement was Caucasian, that was enough to pacify this. He wasn't looking for competence, just whiteness. My alternative assignment was in Captain John Sullivan's supply section. I fared very well here. The work amounted to simply filling out various work papers, travel orders, memoranda, supply requests, and approvals of leave requests, purchase orders, etc., etc. I learned a lot about military jargon, which consisted primarily of acronyms like DTD, MOS, EM, USAFE, G, ETA, etc. My typing skills also increased noticeably, and I became noticed as one of the best, if not the best typist in the whole section. So much so, my typing ability resulted in my becoming the captain's go-to typist for his most important or classified memoranda or private non-military business correspondence. In general, after my assignment was settled, I had an opportunity to settle into my surroundings. I made lots of real friends and a ton of acquaintances, both white and black. This was the result of living and working on a base that initially housed 100 Army engineers and approximately an equal number of Air Force personnel, enlisted men, and officers. Soon after I arrived at Collier's End Camp, the Air Force contingent was reassigned to another base somewhere in the UK. Their departure left the base exclusively to the 100 enlisted men and 17 officers who were also members of the 928th Aviation Group. Earl McCree, Theodore M. Scott, and Luther Manning, 3 Collier's End buddies of mine, and I had the opportunity to rent an apartment in London town. Oh yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. Where we would spend all weekends and short leaves of 3, 4, or more days. Our first apartment was located in London's Tufnell Park at 2247 Tufnell Park Road. Later, we moved to another apartment in Archway at 49 Miranda Road, not too far away from Tufnell Park. With these living in place, we had opportunities to sightsee and visit London's historical sites like the Tower of London and its ancient torture chambers, and, believe it or not, some universities. I had read in school and college about the London Bridge, Buckingham Palace, Covent Gardens, Piccadilly Circus, and Lord Nelson's statue in Trafalgar Square, and other places like Oxford University and Stratford-on-Avon, Shakespeare's home, and the Houses of Parliament with Big Ben, and even 10 Downing Street. We made a point of visiting all of them. Many sites visited in London and elsewhere in England still bore the signs of war damage. Stationed in the 928th Headquarters Company also afforded me the chance to visit my sister Betty, who was currently living with her husband, Wade Davis, in Paraguay. Okay, I'm sure I said that wrong. I don't know how to say that because that's an odd spelling. France. He was also in the military. I can't remember his unit. He was down to earth, and I learned to like him. He was a bass player. My problem was staying out of the spats Betty and I would on occasion have. Because, of course, she's a Crosby, and we all know what Crosbys do. Crosbys will argue about things that they know nothing about. But that will not stop an argument from ensuing. We call them discussions around the house. But from the outside, they appear to be arguments. And let's see. Do I have a picture of the old man over there with Aunt Betty? No, I don't have it. Don't have it right here. I had it earlier. Must have misplaced it. Okay. But I do have him with his helmet on and his scarf, okay, uniform. So there you go, right there. Boom, there he is. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Okay, now where were we? Oh, yeah. While at Collier's End Camp, I not only strengthened the resurrection of my affection for Shirley G. Redding, my high school flame, I also began to write her more often after I began regularly receiving letters from her. In these letters, I learned she had decided to leave Cleveland College, an adjunct of Western Reserve University, where she was a part-time student, and enrolled at OU. Ohio University is in Athens, Ohio, a small town in southern Ohio, 100 or more miles distant from Cleveland. She was now majoring in psychology. She was going to need that to deal with me. Oh, excuse me, sociology. She needed that too. Anyway, you go. As I pointed out earlier, I'd already visited her in Athens. Now we started regularly writing to each other and exploring the plans she had for after college. I wrote about my plans after the Army and about my adventures in England too. As our correspondence progressed, I even wrote to her friend Beryl, telling her about my life in the Army, and especially in England and London town. Eventually, in our year-long written conversations, I mentioned to Shirley I intended to return to Kent or enroll at Ohio State, and that I had already applied for an early 3-month for an early release from the Army in order to do just that. I didn't mention at the time I was going to major in, because I really didn't know, or I hadn't yet decided, even though German was at the top of my list. Okay. Even though German was at the top of my list. Finally, I mentioned to her I had a 2-week leave coming up, and I planned to visit my sister and her husband Wade in France for the second time. While in France, I bought Shirley a bottle of Chanel No. 5. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. And then I committed myself to regular surprise tributes to our friendship. On her birthday in November, I sent her a small but expensive German Voigtlander camera. I knew she would like it because she enjoyed taking pictures. And the camera she had was way out of date. In fact, it was a photographic relic of 1935 vintage, I believe. Then I got the brilliant idea to send my parents each month a $25 or $50 U.S. bond. The amount shifted each month because I also started sending Shirley money to buy or send me clothing items I couldn't find in Ware or in London. On one occasion, I asked her to purchase a pair of Stetson blue suede shoes to go with the blue cashmere overcoat I had just had tailor fitted to fit in with my blue Homburg. Oh yeah. Oh, wait a minute. This is okay. With these duds, I became a sartorial phenom on the streets of London. Whenever I appeared dressed down to the nines, sometimes I would also send Shirley U.S. bonds to salt the way for me, so I would have a stash of dough when I was discharged. Shirley's father couldn't understand why these bonds were coming regularly and addressed to her. Who was this person sending her money? I hadn't realized they would be sent in U.S. Treasury envelopes. She managed to explain, but it wasn't easy. Okay, now we come there. That's the end of chapter 3 and the beginning of chapter 4. He doesn't give them cool names like me, so I get to name the chapters. Yeah, I love doing stuff like that. So tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, we will be back and pick up right here where we left off today at the beginning of chapter 4. We'll pick up from there. In the meanwhile, we're going to leave you with a smile for a while. Because we always like to do it in a really nice style. We're going to encourage everyone out there to continue donating. Keep on sending those donations. Don't stop now, because the 20th is right around the corner. You know, we got our campaign going, and we would like not to have to extend it out again, but we will if we have to, because we have a goal. We have a goal to bring in $20,000. We're trying to do it by the 20th of whatever month it happens. Okay? The 20th of whatever month it happens. We started with the 20th of September. We went to the 20th of October. We're now looking at the 20th of November. Y'all don't send in those donations soon. This could be a year-long campaign. We'd like to be able to end the campaign and your pain as well of having to listen to us each time we finish with our live stream. But in the meanwhile, donation button is right below. If you're looking at us on Facebook, if you're looking at us on YouTube, go to the website, www.blakfacts.org. That's where you'll find me. And as you will see, you can make a donation there too. Just hit the tab in the top right and it'll give you it'll drop right on down, give you a donation page. You can go there and make your donation, because right now I hear it's all the rage. So let's do like Funkadelic said and take it to the stage. That's what we need to do today, because guess what? Ain't nobody going to support us if you don't support us. Okay? That's the only way we can keep this thing going. We can't keep it going on air and breathing. Well, we could become a breatharian, but it's a hard life. And I would have to be more like a hermit than I am right now. So please go ahead, send those donations in. Don't be shy. We will get the funds. Just go ahead and do it. Do it now without delay. Peace out. Without a doubt, we'll be back here tonight at 9. We will be continuing the story of Ida B. Wells. Who was Ida B. Wells? Matter of fact, who is Ida B. Wells? Because although her body may be moldering in the grave, that woman is definitely still alive. You know, she just won a Pulitzer. I believe she won it this year, if I'm not mistaken. If she didn't win it this year, it was late last year. She just won a posthumous Pulitzer Prize. She should have won it decades ago. But you know how it is. Enough said. Peace out. Without a doubt, we'll see you tonight, and hopefully we can make everything right.